Welcome to BullionMax. I'm Mark Allen, along with Sean Reynolds, the customer service manager for BullionMax. Sean and I are going to spend some time with Michael T. Anderson, AIF. We'll find out what that means in a moment. He's an executive vice president and registered investment advisor services, RIA, at Firestone Partners. And we call him Mike. And so, Mike, welcome to BullionMax.
Happy to be here today, Mark, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Our pleasure. First of all, now you spend your time primarily working with investment strategies for retirement for institutions, corporations. And
So,
go ahead.
So our primary customer is institutional, a company in managing and advising and educating on the investment, retirement investment for employees and the whole range of company retirement plans. So from 401ks to profit sharing to defined benefit 403b plans. And then where we meet the individual, as you can imagine, a lot of these individuals end up retiring with our key advice to them over time, and they're able to retire. And then that's where our individual private clients, couples, families, that's where they become private clients. And then we advise them on their retirement investments and pretty much holistically on all of their finances through retirement. We do act as fiduciaries.
What is a fiduciary, so that people understand that?
Basically taking the investment liability responsibility of prudently and effectively managing retirement dollars that belong to other folks on behalf of them and the corporation. So we're taking that we're taking that stewardship of responsibility.
Got it.
Through they're handing that to us, and in turn, it's our responsibility to advise, monitor, and allocate dollars effectively per policy statements, and applying our expertise and experience to these retirement dollars. The ultimate goal is to get everybody in a position where they can retire at the level that they wish.
Got it.
So it's your version of looking out for their best interest with their money.
Exactly. So we're basically the backstop. We're the people that have their back, is what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Because we talk about precious metals here at BullionMax, let's talk about that. You and I talked the other day, and you have some coins that you still coins, I think, and some maybe more than coins that you personally have. Do you have clients, both institutional and private individuals, that have part of their retirement in some kind of precious metals?
Yeah, so primarily the individuals as a diversification and hedge to complement stocks, bonds, alternative investments, cash, annuities. But it has a place, not only, of course, in retirement dollars, but for taxable dollars that might be part of a family trust, a taxable account in individual or joint name with a couple. At the company level, let's say through a 401k, we typically in an investment menu offer to the employees that we create and monitor and am responsible for as a fiduciary. It typically will include funds, mutual funds or ETFs that are precious metal based, mineral based funds, again, to diversify. And most of those will allocate into mining companies, both here domestically and internationally. But on the retirement company retirement side, it's typically through gold mining, fabrication, stocks that are in mutual funds and in ETFs. And then on the individual side, it can range from that to holding the physical gold in custody and in an IRA.
Got it. A lot of financial planners, and I would assume I'm going to stretch that out to include accountants as well. They're not wild about precious metals. Is there a reason for that? Is it lack of education?
Well, to a certain degree. And if you look at, there's a few elements, because gold, equities, bonds, they're asset groups, right? They're different asset groups. Gold is no different. It's an investment asset group. And even though it has its own characteristics. And some of the downside to it is, some planners may look at it as, well, if I'm holding the physical coins or the bullion in custody, it potentially could be, it can lack liquidity compared to, let's say, a stock, where most stocks, especially large company stocks, are very liquid. You can buy and sell them as long as the market's open. You can buy them and sell them at will. There's always a buyer, always a seller, whether the stock price is going up or down. It's liquid. So a question of liquidity, holding the physical gold is an aspect of it. Another piece is, and this, I see this coming up with colleagues in the industry, where let's say in an IRA, the individual is now retired. There's more of a need to produce income, the distributions from that IRA as a source of income in their retirement, based on their needs for the month, for the quarter, for the year, cover expenses. And the physical gold, it doesn't pay a dividend.
Right.
It doesn't pay a dividend. So that's another piece of it that I get, in conversation with fellow investment advisors, and especially for the retirees, in producing income into retirement, because it doesn't pay a dividend. Now, where it can pay a dividend is with a publicly traded mining company,
Right.
or a gold fabrication company that may very well pay a dividend, based on their earnings, and still is totally exposed to the price of gold, and maybe not, in step by step, but for the most part, it's going to follow, their earnings are going to follow the price of gold, and hopefully it's a well-managed firm to keep those profit margins as high as possible. But there's an opportunity there where, the publicly held company, mining, fabrication, pays a dividend. So there it does. See, that's kind of the give and the take, where there is an opportunity where to produce income from it.
Does it seem that the market history might also negatively impact gold and silver, simply because it seemed like it was never going anywhere? When I started in the business 15, 16, it was like it just sat there. So people would take a look at, well, what are my premiums for what I'm buying? If I hold it for 2 years, I'm probably not going to make my money back with my premium, because there's just not enough market movement to cover what the premium was. So I can see it as a rather unsexy investment when you're looking for it to generate money, as opposed to the steady protectionist aspect of it.
And the hedge that you mentioned already, Mike, the hedge against inflation. And we we have inflation right now, and it's on everybody's mind.
Right. And Sean, to your point with, for many, if you look at the longer history, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, for most of that, you're right, it's been pretty flat. What's interesting is, and earlier today, on that very note, Sean, I said, you know what? I want to see what the 3-year return on the spot price of gold's been for the last 3 years up through
Sure.
today.
Mm-hmm.
And you already know what I'm going to say. It's healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up almost 48%.
Where's this
in the
been all
last-
my life?
Yeah, where's it been all my life? Yeah. So we're in this cycle where it's in favor. And, just to touch on it, whereas for the last generation of time, you're absolutely right. It's been trading in a range. It's been relatively flat, with periods of where there has been inflation, which we have not been really plagued with inflation for almost a generation of time, up until the most recent now.
Right.
And so it's been flat, but the last 3 years, and if you look, it's up almost 48% total return, and a lot of that started during the core part of the pandemic. So if you go back to summer of 2020, that's when price of gold was trading over $2,000 an ounce. I mean, we closed today at what, about 1896 today. As far as the trend, just to comment on that, we see the trend on gold remaining strong, and pullbacks in bullion we see more as a buying opportunity, as opposed to, oh, well, that's the end of this uptrend. Okay,
Right.
so that's as far as forecast, that's our general forecast. We see the pullbacks more as a buying opportunity, in a overall primary trend up that remains firm to strong, mainly because of the inflation scenario that is obviously happening, not only here, but in other parts of the world. It being another aspect that we see a lot of support for gold right now is as a haven, because of obviously what's going on in Ukraine, with that tragedy going on there. The industrial demand for gold remains strong. And what's really interesting is, historically, when the US dollar is strong, it tends not to favor the price of gold.
Right.
Right? As you know, historically. But here we are, where the dollar is hitting a year-over-year high almost every day.
And gold is still going up.
And gold is still going up. So that tells you, okay, here's a major factor. We've got inflation as a haven, industrial usage, but here's the dollar that's really strong, yet it's not taking away from the strength of gold. And that, as amongst my many hats, I'm also an analyst. and that tells you that the underpinning price is and in the level of where it is, of where it's trading, and this upward trend is it's strong, and without even that factor coming into play. And maybe it'll come in, as other economies, strength of other economies and currencies start catching up to the US dollar. Maybe with that, it'll benefit gold even a little bit more.
Sure.
But it's amazing that it's not taking away.
This is like one of the I'm sorry, Mike.
Yeah.
This is one of the first times that that's happened too, isn't it? If not the first time, at least in
It,
recent history.
at least over, I would say, the last 10 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I need to talk to Sean just briefly about BullionMax.
Mhm.
While BullionMax can't help you with your, and maybe I'm wrong, can't help you with your IRA. Am I correct?
We do not currently have a custodial partner, nor are we vaulting at this time. We use Birch Gold as our partner when
Got
people
it.
have precious metals IRAs.
But let's talk about Birch Gold. If you are interested in having gold come to you, if you're interested in actually holding on to the gold yourself, putting it in a safety deposit box or in your mattress, you can visit BullionMax.com. We have their website up underneath us. That's BullionMax.com. If you have questions, you can call in during business hours, and you'll probably get Sean, and he'll be happy to guide you through the process of getting gold, silver, platinum, and other precious metals, either as bars, as rounds, as coins. So it should be, it's just an easy walk for you at BullionMax.com. Let's go back and talk to Mike again. This should be a banner year for you, Mike, because more people are retiring because their baby boomers are getting older. And as they do that and they enter retirement age, they need help. They need assets. Um, have you looked into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to go a little bit further with that, we've got about 10,000 Americans in the United States retiring every day,
Wow.
about 10,000 a day. Okay. And the amount of time and resource that our practice spends with the near retiree and the individual transitioning into retirement, simply because the numbers of those people have increased. Consequently, the amount of time and resource and energy that we spend in this area has increased. So 7, 8 years ago, I spent maybe 15%, 15% of the firm's time and resource in working with the near retiree. Now it's 30% and growing,
Wow.
simply because through all these corporate retirement plans, there's more and more that wave of baby boomers, retiring. And so it's definitely affected our business, and putting more time and resource into that, what the near retiree needs. Another interesting thing about the investment advisory financial planning area, while the need for advisors in this area, especially for the near retirees, all these baby boomers retiring, okay? And this is going to go on for a number of years, okay? This is not going to fall off a cliff next year. This is going to be going on for a long time.
There's more of them than any other
Generation.
yeah, of the population. Sean,
Right.
one day you'll get there.
I'm Gen
One
X,
day Sean will be there with us, exactly.
right behind you, right behind
Got
you.
it.
So I'm
Got it.
watching closely. Let's say that.
Yes.
And to go with that, what's interesting in the financial planning investment advisor area, this is all happening when our industry, our people, our the number in our profession is actually getting grayer and fewer.
Huh.
So when this is really, there simply are not enough of us to do really everything to service this population of Americans.
Well, there we
And
go. For a while, we thought we needed more plumbers, we need more electricians, more tradesmen. We need more financial advisors. Just really.
to meet the demand. And at a time when there are fewer younger folks coming into our profession, not none, just
Right.
fewer,
Just fewer.
just fewer. And then those that, have been around for several decades, eventually they retire.
Right.
So on average, we're actually getting grayer and fewer.
Let's talk about that. If I became, or somebody just out of college wants to become a financial planner and in the industry, I understand there's several ways that they're compensated. One is, uh, uh, well, you tell us, how are financial planners, if you can, compensated? Stockbrokers, you sell a stock, they get a percentage of that. Does it work the same way with financial planners?
Well, financial planners, it's evolved um, to a couple of things. It's fee for service.
Mm-hmm.
So a certain number of dollars for the scope of service, financial planning service provided, and maybe a one-time, it may be an ongoing retainer, but a billing to the individual, the couple, fee for service. What could also be blended into that would the financial planner, based on the scope of investment, insurance, financial products that are included, including purchasing gold. There's commissions attached to that the uh, financial planner could receive a percentage of assets that are under management. That's the regarding, it could be a combination of stocks, bonds, cash, metals.
And so as that goes up, the
Portfolio size.
financial, yeah, the
So as a
financial person,
percentage of
yeah,
managing the overall portfolio,
right.
that's one way. Or so fee for service, where there's straight billing, asset a asset management fee based on the overall assets under your direction for the client. The least um, frequent, I should say, category today is transaction based. So,
Uh,
Mark, as you said, in the days of the commission stockbroker, it's kind of done. Okay.
Good.
It's done. And I know, for you, that it's music to your ears. I realize.
Yes. Right.
I realize. So, but not that it doesn't exist at all, but it's way down on the list today. But the first two scenarios that I described to you is really the primary ways in which financial planners are compensated. And
And
keeping in mind, along with being a CFP, you've got, most have securities licenses for securities. Most have life insurance licenses, depending on if some of the products needed by the client are life-based.
Mm-hmm.
So you have not just one licensing or certification, but you have a range of licensing and certifications and
I'm going to
qualifications.
interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you here. I'm
Yep.
looking at your CV. You've got, you personally hold Series 6, 7, 24, and 66 security licenses, plus
Yep.
life and health insurance producers licensed in California, Iowa. Have you ever been to Iowa? And Florida. So,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's, I understand that. So in your role as guide, have you, or do you ever say to an individual, maybe we'll do a little bit, part of your portfolio into precious metals?
That does happen, absolutely. Because it's and depending on the need, profile, the appropriateness for suitability,
Sure.
best interest for that client. it as I said, gold is and regardless of the form, whether it's in physical form or through a publicly held company that is a mining company, it represents an asset class that, combined with other assets, contribute to a total return and volatility. It smooths out risk. It contributes to growth in different cycles that we're in. I mean, right now, here we are with all these factors. You know, in January of 2020, who thought we were on the doorstep of a worldwide pandemic?
Right.
Okay. 3 months ago, 4 months ago, who thought we'd have a major conflict in Eastern Europe?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like, really? Yeah, I mean, come on. Yeah, well, it's happening, you know, so,
Yeah.
you know,
It's not my
and
bingo card.
Yeah.
there you go.
Listen, Mike, we're running out of time. Sean, did you get you had a question for Mike?
Yeah, so
Earlier.
for people who may not be familiar with investment products, retirement products, so the assumption is with precious metals, you know, in case someday we need to barter, trade, you know, for goods and services, if they had a precious metals IRA, what are some kind of reality checks that these folks would need to understand about distributions and things of that nature, if that's kind of, if they're thinking that's how they're going to be able to utilize this type of investment? Maybe educate those folks a little bit in case they're thinking that's what they could do.
The number one thing is liquidity, is that in liquidity when they need dollars. And as we know, the three of us know, there is something in IRAs called a required minimum distribution that comes to us from the federal government. Okay. And currently at age 72, currently, if you haven't taken any distributions, you're no longer working, you have to take a required minimum distribution. It typically equates the first few years to about 3 to 4% of the total value of the account that's in custody.
So you're going to start the tap.
Yeah.
Start the tap.
Start bringing the
Absolutely.
money.
So the federal government's going to, going to get at least something while you're still with us. Okay.
Got it.
So
Is that taxable, Mike?
yes. So those dollars coming out of the IRA would be taxed as ordinary income. So with holding physical gold in custody in an IRA, and with Birch, as a specialty custodian set up to be able to perform that service, wonderful. Just that there is accommodation and consideration to have enough liquidity to be able to meet those distributions, together with other things that come up in life where okay, I need to take the RMD, but hey, I've got this major expense this calendar year coming up beyond the RMD, and just giving enough time to plan for those larger expenditures and distributions, and then you should be fine.
Yeah, life stuff, marriages, your kids get married, or you're, building a dream house. Didn't think
A lot
we
of
were
life
gonna,
events,
but
exactly.
All of those.
Just
Got
plan
it.
ahead.
But with enough planning, even if you're holding the physical gold, then to have the cash ready when you need it.
We are out of time. I thank you, Mike, for spending some time with us. I should mention that Mike hosts the Anderson Files on podclips.io, and we will be joining them very soon here at BullionMax. Sean, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate that. And we thank you very much. Now, if you would like information about BullionMax, you see our website is up here. And we also have a place where you can reach out to Mike. Mike, what is that?
That would be, you can reach me at M. Anderson, M. Anderson at finestonepartners.com. M. Anderson at FirestonePartners.com. My direct landline dial is 310-432-7018. And
Terrific.
we're in Beverly Hills, California. We're on Wilshire Boulevard, and so we're on West Coast time, and open during normal business hours. And Mark, Sean, thanks again for having me. Enjoyed the conversation today.
Thank you very much. We've enjoyed having you. Sean, thank you. We'll see you on our next edition. I'm Mark Allen for BullionMax. Bye-bye for now.